Gloria, this is real history right now. She would be only the third woman ever to serve on the United States Supreme Court and the first Hispanic ever to serve on the U.S. Supreme Court.
That's right, for whom English was not her first language. I was reading that in some of our research before. So I think it is an historic moment. And I think it's pretty clear the kinds of questions that you're going to hear Republicans asking. She did make a very controversial remark in a speech that a wise Latina woman would issue a better opinion than a white male judge. I think you can be sure she's going to be asked about things like that. And liberals are concerned themselves about whether she's on their side on issues like abortion and race. They're not quite sure about that.
Jeff Sessions, the Republican ranking member, the top Republican on the Senate Judiciary Committee, himself a former judge, with some very, very strong words outlining a theme that no doubt he and other Republicans will focus on during the course of the questioning of Judge Sotomayor, that simply put, some of her comments are not appropriate for a United States Supreme Court justice. Specifically, the comment now widely publicized that she made at the University of California, Berkeley School of Law back in 2001 when she said these words: "I would hope that a wise Latina woman with the richness of her experience would more often than not reach a better conclusion than a white male who hasn't lived that life." Jeff Toobin, let me start with you. Were you surprised by how robust Jeff Sessions' initial comments were?
I was. I thought he would wait a little bit, but this was bombs away from the get-go. And I just think what's worth thinking about here is that there is an issue before the Supreme Court now that is going to dominate these proceedings just below the radar, which is, does the Constitution allow affirmative action anymore? Does the Constitution allow a university to consider race in admissions, to allow a police department or a fire department to consider race as one factor in promotions? That issue really separates the liberals from the conservatives on the court. Sotomayor is going to be asked about that in various ways. It was the underpinning of the case that Sessions was making. Chief Justice Roberts is making a big push on the court to create no more room for affirmative action under the Constitution, and I think that's just something to think about as we move forward.
Well, one of the topics expected to come up during this week's controversial hearings is a statement made by Sotomayor back in October of 2001. Speaking at an event at the University of California at Berkeley, Sotomayor said, quote, "I would hope that a wise Latina woman with the richness of her experiences would, more often than not, reach a better conclusion than a white male who hasn't lived that life." Joining us now from Capitol Hill, Senate Judiciary Member, Republican Jon Kyl of Arizona. Senator, good morning to you.
Good morning, Megan.
So just to start off, that was not the only time Sotomayor made that comment. She's made it repeatedly, as by some counts as many as 7 times. So the White House is going to have a tough time seeing her live up to its statement on that comment, where President Obama said she may have misspoke. Having said all that, how much hay can you make out of that, and could that potentially derail her confirmation?
It's not a matter of making hay out of it. It's a matter of finding out what she really believes. Because if she believes it, and you're right, she has said it on numerous occasions, this was not just a slip of the tongue. And by the way, it was reprinted in a law journal, which she obviously edited. So she was very careful about what she said. But if she really means by that members of the court, who are persons of color, as she puts it, will make better decisions, and will make decisions based upon a particular agenda that they hold, and she encourages that there be more and more of those judges appointed to the courts, that's a bad thing. As we all know, judges are supposed to be like umpires in a ball game, calling the balls and strikes, not changing the rules of the game. Even the American Bar Association.
But how do you get to that, Senator? Because Judge Sotomayor is not going to go before Congress today and say, yes, I believe that people of certain color, people of minority descent are going to make better judges than white judges. I mean, that would be a potential deal breaker, and I think this woman is smart enough to know that. So how are you going to satisfy yourself that that's not what she secretly believes, despite what she may tell you?
Well, that's the question all of America will have to decide. If we point out that she has said this over and over and over again with the same terminology, and then in her hearings she says, no, I really didn't mean it, the question for the American people to judge is, which Judge Sotomayor do you think is going to be deciding cases once she's on the Supreme Court and is there for her lifetime and not accountable to anyone else. That's why this is so important. There is nobody to provide a check and a balance on someone once they get to be on the United States Supreme Court.
Senator, there's been a lot of talk about whether senators like yourself from Arizona, which has a high Hispanic population, will go easy on the nominee for fear of alienating Hispanic voters or Latino voters. What is your response to those who are concerned you may do that?
I'm not going to go easy or go hard. I'm just going to ask questions as diplomatically but as firmly as I can. And I don't think in this day and age anybody here in Washington votes yes or no on a nominee based upon their agenda or their ethnicity. It shouldn't be done, and frankly, it isn't done.
Is there any chance that the Republicans attempt to vote this nominee down or attempt to garner the votes to somehow filibuster this nominee? We did see that attempt with Justice Alito. You've got the chairman of your committee, Patrick Leahy, a Democrat, who wanted to filibuster Sam Alito, not to mention President Obama, who was then a senator who wanted to filibuster Sam Alito. Any chance the Republicans, despite the numbers that are against them now in the Senate, attempt that with respect to this judge?
I don't think so. We haven't so far. Everyone is free to make their own judgment on this. We are not going to do, as you said, what President Obama and Chairman Leahy did on the Alito nomination and try to successfully conduct a filibuster. In the first place, we don't have the numbers, as you pointed out. But we don't operate that way. Everybody is free to make their own decision. And I haven't decided yet. I am anxious to see what she says. I also think it's important because, according to a very recent survey by the Rasmussen Group, which is a very respected polling concern, the majority of Americans oppose her confirmation right now, and that includes large majorities of both women and Hispanic and Asian voters. And by the way, independent voters, by something like 23 or 24 points, oppose her confirmation. So the American people are looking skeptically at her nomination, I think because of all of the controversy that Carl pointed out before and that you've noted just now. That's why I think she has a job to do here. It's not up to us to try to trip her up or go easy on her or anything of that sort, but rather to elicit the information that will enable the American people to judge her and those of us on the committee to make our decisions as well.
Understood. Yes, the latest Rasmussen poll conducted July 1st says 39% of Americans do not favor her confirmation, 37% do, which was a slide for her from an earlier poll. Senator Jon Kyl, we'll be watching. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Megan.
But what is different about the confirmation hearings that you'll see today here on Fox than the other two that she's been through for the district court and also the appellate court is a record of some 3,000 decisions she participated in and also statements she's made, as you've heard. Public policy considerations should be a part of decision making, she said, knowing that that isn't the general feeling among lawyers in the legal community, and also that being a Latina woman would make her potentially a better decision maker than a white male. Those will all come up in the hearings today. Definitely the empathy factor President Obama said he wants is in play when it comes to ethnicity.
President Obama's pick for the Supreme Court, Sonia Sotomayor, faces lawmakers this morning on Capitol Hill as confirmation hearings get underway. Senate Judiciary Republicans are promising fair but tough questions on Sotomayor's past rulings, especially cases involving discrimination and race issues. They're also set to press her to explain what she meant when she said a wise Latina woman could come to a better conclusion than a white male.
Republicans are also sure to press Sotomayor on her past statement that a wise Latina woman would reach a better conclusion than a white male. Senator Jeff Sessions is the senior Republican on the Senate Judiciary Committee.
She has advocated a view that suggests that your personal experiences, even prejudices, she uses that word, it's expected that they would influence the decision you make, which is a blow, I think, at the very ideal of American justice.
Democrats, including the committee's chair, will no doubt come quickly to Sotomayor's defense.
She has the experience and the cases that show her to be a mainstream judge. Anything else is nitpicking.
But she'll be pressed for an explanation of her now well-known statement that a wise Latina woman would more often than not reach a better conclusion as a judge than a white male. Some Republicans say her record shows she's too willing to allow her own feelings to intrude, something they say that's at odds with other judges.
Who have laid out the traditional way in which you decide cases with impartiality, laying your biases and prejudices aside, and just using the law. She, of course, looks to other factors like empathy, like whether it's popular in foreign countries and that sort of thing.
Republicans will ask about a ruling she endorsed that said the Second Amendment's protection of the right to own a gun does not apply to the states, an issue that has divided the federal courts. And they'll ask why she joined a ruling against white firefighters in Connecticut who claimed reverse discrimination. They sued when the city threw out a promotion test that would have helped them but not black firemen. The Supreme Court reversed that ruling just last month.
The hearing will last 4 days, maybe 5, and the Democrats hope to have the full Senate vote on the confirmation by early August before Congress takes its summer break, Lester.